Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Tales from Retail subreddit, a place for stories about people's daily experiences in brick and mortar retail. Without further ado, let's get orgasm with Arkush. The first story of today's video was posted by Bloody Maniac. Little boy turned my joke around on me. I work in the self-checkout of a retail store. I like working evenings as then I have time to talk to customers. I enjoy talking to the kids, and one night around 8 o'clock, a woman and her 7 or 8-year-old son came in. He was doing that kind of thing where they pull their arms into their t-shirt and pretend they don't have arms. I jokingly told him that it looks like his arms fell off and had seen the pair on the floor in aisle 5. I know it's a dumb joke, but I'm a dad. This young man looks me dead in the eye and says in a gruff voice, "I lost them in the war." It was so perfect. I thought I was going to hurt myself laughing so hard. When I got myself under control, the mother looked at me and said, "He's always like this. I hope they come back. I can't wait to see what else he has to say." What a clever boy. Now I'm envisioning a 7-year-old who is also a veteran of the Great War for some reason. Awesome kid. The following Reddit post was from the Nightmare Child 25. Crazy lady thinks delivery driver is part of a drug cartel. Hey guys, I don't post too much, but I got this crazy story working at the supply store of the office Variety. I work part-time at this store and we get a bunch of crazy/rude people, but this one stood out. At this part of the day, I only had an hour left in my shift and my manager had me doing the monthly training when the delivery driver for Redx, I don't want to say the real company, was looking around for the manager and just settled on talking to me. The conversations are not 100% correct because I have a crap memory. RD, Redx driver. Me. PN, psycho nutjob. SM, store manager. Redx driver. Well, today just got weird. Me. What happened? Redx driver. This lady over there, points to printing department, is accusing me of stealing her faxes. Side note, we do printing and faxing if it wasn't obvious. Me. Like, you picked up her papers? Redx driver. No, like I took her fax off the airwaves. Me. Stares in confusion. The airwaves? Redx driver. Yeah, she thinks I'm stealing the info off the airwaves. Chuckles. Me. That's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. At this point, my manager comes in and he tells her the story too. I think both of us just chalked it up to just another customer that doesn't know how technology works, so we go back to what we are doing for the next 10 minutes. The driver is outside in his truck finishing picking up the packages when the psycho nutjob approaches my manager. Psycho nutjob. Hi, I need to talk to you about the driver. Store manager. Yes, what's the issue? I'm still doing my training but fully paying attention to this convo and only 6 feet away. Psycho nutjob. Well, I don't appreciate him being next to me while I'm sending these documents. They're very important. I don't want him pulling the information off the airwaves. Store manager. Awkward silence. My manager takes great care to not anger customers and makes sure they leave happy. Psycho nutjob. I know he's in his truck with his equipment stealing my information. I can't feel the magnetic pulses of his truck, you know? Yes, she said that. I don't remember everything, but you can be sure I remember that. Store manager. Not okay. Psycho nutjob. These documents are very important that I need to send to the feds. He's over there with all his equipment stealing my info because I have a critical information that Redx is running a drug cartel and now everyone in here knows it. Store manager? Me. At this point, I'm not even doing my training. I'm fully looking at her wide-eyed. She continues saying things like, I work for a tech company, I know what I'm talking about, and then trying to explain how fax works using airwaves, and how you can pull information with magnets. My manager, who I think was on autopilot, just saying whatever she wants to hear and not set her off. I think that convo lasted a good 5 to 7 minutes, but after everything was done, I just started laughing with my manager about it and I went home not long after. But wait, there's more. So the reason I'm even posting this and the reason I call this lady psycho nutjob and not Karen or crazy lady is that I was talking to my manager about this event and she had told me that the driver couldn't work because that nutjob followed him and attacked him, getting herself arrested. So I hope she got that talk with the feds she wanted. I work for a tech company, I know what I'm talking about. Why is this kind of qualification is always followed by an absolutely insane statement? I had a customer tell me the same thing on the phone one time. Then they proceeded to explain that the public computers at the library were being used to steal their information. Then there was the guy who refused to wear a mask properly because he worked in the healthcare for 2 decades, so he knows more about COVID than anyone. Guys, some people are just ridiculous. Our next story of today's video was from Gentle Breeze 90. The government says you have to be open. A quick one from yesterday. I worked in a UK electronics store, one of the smallest of this chain in the UK. Non-essential shops have been allowed to reopen. Some opened straight away. Others have taken a slower approach to open. We've been preparing to open next week while on click and collect only for this week. The front of the store is plastered with posters stating we're currently closed. We have the door closed off with cones and warning tape. Nonetheless, people keep coming up to the door bemused that it's not opening automatically. I was outside doing a job that included transporting sandbags, and as I was bringing 2 trolleys of bags into the store, I had to move the cones to clear my path to the door. For some reason, certain types of customer can hear the space between the 2 cones and hone in on it. As I'm moving the bags inside, I see movement in my peripheral view. A guy is barreling towards the front door, staring straight ahead. The standard, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but if no one makes eye contact, I don't have to stop, move. I step in front of him and the following exchange happens. Me. Hi. Anything I can help you with? Customer. Annoyed that he had to stop. I hope so. I need a printer. Tries to continue walking forward. Me. Getting in front of him again. Sadly, the shop isn't open for customers today. However, we are offering click and... Customer. Annoyed again. The government said you have to be open. Me. Well, as I've said, we are only open for click and... Customer. This is unacceptable. Storms off. Not exciting, but my mind is just blown about how he would have stormed into the store and argued about getting served, despite our not being open. Did he think we just cave if he argued hard enough? Hey guys, you see, when the governor tells people to stay home and stop having cough on each other parties, he's just some guy. But when he says stores may be open, he is Lord of all creation and his whims have the force of law. How funny is that? Moving on to the next story, posted by Examination OK 7013. Killed the mean lady with kindness and I'm still laughing. So I work overnight and we have a deli where we make an assortment of food. We also have screens to tell us how people want it made. We also have a screen to let us know what has been paid for and what still needs payment. There is also a policy that we have signs up for basically saying you need to pay first. Now you're caught up, let's dive into last night. Towards the beginning of our shift, we started getting busy and hit with orders. We made Rude Lady and Understanding Lady's food, and I informed them in my cheerful customer service tone that if they are waiting on food, please head up under the big sign up front to pay and their food should be up shortly. They looked and I thought they heard me. They walked away to go stand and talk and wait. We didn't even see them standing there till we handed out the next order. At least 10 more orders go out with me repeating my line between every single order. I made it sound like a general announcement to everyone around us so I didn't get turned on for calling them out. They were standing close enough to hear for their order number but ignoring the announcement every single time. After the 10th one was called, she went off. Rude Lady. Where's our food? Order 66 and 71. Me. Yes ma'am, if you just go up under that sign and pay, your food will be right out. Rude Lady. I don't want to go up there, I want my food first. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but due to policy... Rude Lady. I don't care, I want my food. Manager, who was making orders with me and heard every announcement. Ma'am, we can't give our food until it's paid for. Understanding Lady. We can just go pay for it first so we can get it. Rude Lady. I don't want to, I come here all the time. First off, no one cares because we are in that building more than you will ever be doesn't mean we can change policy. Anyways, my manager tries to explain again and this is where I started to laugh. Rude Lady. I want to speak to your manager. Manager. Well, I am the manager. Rude Lady. Whatever, who cares? Still angry, being persuaded up front by Understanding Lady. When she comes back, she tells us there should be signs up if we are going to change the policy. I pointed out we did have signs up and I made several announcements. She said she wasn't arguing with a child. I'm in the mid-20s and normally have people overshoot my age. How nice of her, right? So I told her to have a great night, and she was so pissy that she was grumbling and said a very sarcastically cheerful, "You as well." But the absolute best part was when I told her to have a safe trip. She turned to me super angry and said in an angry tone, "You have a super nice night," before turning around and storming out. We were dying laughing. Also found out later from the cashier that rude lady asked who the manager was, and when he confirmed, she was not happy. Customer service is so great. Guys, if there's one thing I've learned about humanity from all the stories from Tale from Retail is that people don't read signs. Not rude ladies, not anyone. When will these people learn that rudeness is never gonna get them anywhere? Now to the next story, posted by Young Coasty. Ma'am, I believe this belongs to you. Years and years ago, around 2005, I worked as a supervisor for a popular discount retailer known for basics like graphics tees and walls of denim for men, women, and kids. The culture was not great, but I was hungry to prove myself and also the least experienced manager on staff, so I spent a lot of time troubleshooting at the front end while the boss sat in the back room. One day, we had our best cashier on shift, E. This person is now a highly accomplished journalist with a pretty impressive career, and he has always been a bit of a serious-sounding guy. Deep voice, takes his job seriously. He was authorized to perform MOD functions on the register, including returns, so he usually doesn't need assistance. But I can see there's something unusual happening, so I come closer just to keep an eye on it. It took me a moment to realize the customer at E's register was trying to return a pair of pants, but she didn't have a receipt. At this time, the process to complete a store credit for someone without a receipt was to give them a gift card with the lowest value of the item within the last 90 days. The customer was set to take a gift card of $595. The jeans were more than a couple of seasons old, at least, judging by the SKU number. Naturally, she was unhappy and wanted more money. She insisted that she had brought her receipt with her, but it was nowhere to be found. E, being the diligent guy who wants to make all his customer happy, starts looking around to see where it might be. Did it drop on the floor? No, not there. How about the back pockets? Nothing there. Then he reaches into the front pocket of these used and old jeans and pulls out something. A receipt? Nah. Maybe one of those silica packets you sometimes see? No. It was a chicken wing, dried up and eaten down to the bone. An entire chicken wing bone in the front pocket of the jeans she didn't wear. E just looks at her, holds out his prize, and deadpans. "Ma'am, I believe this belongs to you." He did not need my help with this customer. She was speechless and compliant from that point on. I don't remember if she took the $6 store credit or kept her used item, but I never forgot about Chicken Bone Lady and her dirty denim. Now moving on to the next story, posted by Sinton Yevadas. Yes, sir. You have to pay for a plastic bag, no matter how old you are. This happened about a year ago when I was a university student working in a liquor store. Best job, loved it. We had many tourists come to buy scotch of all types and prices. One evening, an entourage of older tourists dropped in and yelled at my colleague and me. "Bablu, I need Bablu." There is no whiskey named Bablu. However, we used to this, so my colleague and I showed the gentleman our selection of Bob Blair and asked which he liked, explaining to him the different varieties and how they're going to be the last generation of year statements, and so on. My colleague and I are both young and female, which didn't appeal to this guy. He stuck his nose up, alluding that we didn't know as much as he did. False. Combined, we know a lot, and even called himself a whiskey connoisseur. Without much else, he chose based on the price. Lowest, and wanted 3, came to about £112, which, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't that much. I asked whether he wanted a bag. He groved and refused, so I rung him up for the 3 whiskies, gave the receipt, signed some tax forms, and thanked him. He didn't leave. Him. "Give me a bag." Me. "Oh, sorry, sir. You said you didn't need one. It's an extra £5, but you can just put it in our charity box." Him. £5? You mean I've just come from buying hundreds of pounds of whiskey and you're wanting me to pay £5 for a plastic bag? Me. "Yes, it's the law here, and if we don't abide by the law, then our license could get revoked. It all goes to charity. We've chosen WaterAid so that people from the most deprived countries can get access to water." Him. "But that's disgraceful. I can't believe you're going to charge me £5. I won't stand for it. This is awful." Colleague. "It's the law. Think about the future. Plastic bag waste has gone down 80% since the price was introduced, and the money all goes to charity." The old man lost his mind and screamed at us. "Charity? I'm a charity." He and his entourage stormed out, carrying the heavy weight of 3 Bablu whiskies between the 3 of them. I have since referred to Bob Blair as Bablu in his honor. "Charity? Almost charity. That's so funny. I guess he wants people to give him money just because he's old, grumpy, and cheap. Not gonna happen though. Now to the last story of today's video, posted by CW007. Customer loses beer and freedom over uninterested woman. Being a retail manager for a retail drugstore chain, Friday nights are very busy. Everyone is excited about the weekend and alcohol sales are up. Starts as a typical Friday night until a man we call Ken walks in. Ken is making his way to the cooler to buy a six-pack of Corona beer, glass. On his way there, he decides to hit upon a woman and ask for a number. We call her Jane. Jane's boyfriend, we call him John, immediately confronted Ken and told Ken that Jane is his girlfriend. To get the full picture, Jane had a stroller with a baby in it. John is a large guy with tattoos for eyebrows and several extreme piercings. Both parties go their separate ways until checkout. Ken is in front of John and Jane and tries again to ask Jane for her number. John, in a tougher, firmer voice, again confronts Ken to leave his girlfriend alone. After Ken pays for his beer, he decides to wait outside and again asks Jane for her number. John is now mad and grabs Ken's beer and slams it against a concrete pillar outside the store. Glass breaks and there's a large puddle of beer. John then says, "Next time, that's your head," and leaves with Jane. Well, that was only the start of the crazy night with Ken. Ken asked for a manager and asked for a replacement beer. We told him that because we did not break his beer, we cannot replace his beer. We offered to call the police so he could report the assault and loss. Ken tried to make a case that the store would get a lot of bad publicity with the police and being on the news, so it would be cheaper and less stressful if we just gave him another beer. We kept saying no, multiple times. Then, Ken started a tantrum. He started punching the concrete poles, throwing whatever he could get his hands on, even toppling the trash cans. I called the police not once, but twice. Unfortunately, it took the police half an hour to get to the store. During that half hour, Ken is harassing customers and throwing his tantrum. Luckily, the other manager who was on duty with me was large and burly and offered to escort customers to their cars. At one point, Ken even tries to grab the manager's leg like a little kid, begging for a beer. When the police finally arrive, Ken is throwing his shoes and picks up a piece of broken glass, looking like he's ready to charge. That's when the police draw their guns and order his hands up and him on the ground. The police tell me that what they witnessed is enough for them to arrest him, but take my statement for good measure. Had Ken just listened to John's first warning, he'd be home alone enjoying some beer. Instead, he spent the night in jail alone and no beer. Hey guys, if this doesn't prove the saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I don't know what does. And that brings me to the end of our video today. Hope you reach your eargasm with our Kush. Good day everyone.